So the question is, can meditation help you overcome suffering? Well, the answer is quite simple. Yes, meditation can help you overcome suffering. But you have to be honest with yourself. Are you looking for temporary experiences of well-being, or are you looking for something that's more lasting, or even ultimate happiness? When we say ultimate happiness, what we're referring to is awakening or enlightenment. But it's very difficult for many people to believe that there is even such a thing as ultimate Buddhahood. In fact, many Buddhists themselves don't really believe in this. And that's because it's not something that we have direct or empirical evidence for. We've never met a Buddha, and what's more, we've not experienced enlightenment ourselves, so we don't know what we're referring to here. But it's quite clear that we all experience suffering, and not only that, we want to be free of suffering and experience happiness. But this desire to experience happiness is often transactional in our lives. In other words, we're willing to undergo some amount of suffering in our lives as long as we get some payback, as long as we get some temporary feelings of well-being. And this is clear, right? For many people, they work very hard all week long. It might not even be a job that they want to do, but as long as they get some enjoyment on their weekend, they're able to go to a party or go to the bar, have a few drinks, then they're willing to exchange all the suffering they underwent during that week in order to have a bit of fun on the weekend. There are many different ways that we experience temporary bliss in our life, and it's the same for many people when they meditate. Really, all they're looking for is that little bit of feeling of well-being they get when they're sitting on their cushion, but it only lasts as long as they're sitting on their cushion. Once they return back to the mundane world, then they still encounter the same amount of suffering that they had before. For those of you who are parents, when you've got young children, there's almost no time to yourself. And so sometimes then you might try to practice a bit of yoga or meditation from time to time, maybe 5 or 10 minutes a day. And it's almost as if this is the only time you have off to yourself, when you can be alone and you can feel peace and solitude, if the children let you do that. The question is there more to it than this? And like I said before, you don't need meditation just to feel these temporary experiences of happiness. And one of the places I used to live, then many people do rock climbing. And so they'll work very hard in their daily life, but as long as they get a few hours a week climbing some rocks, then that makes them feel better. It's as if they're doing something for themselves, and being able to do that and experience that temporary happiness that comes from that activity, then everything else is okay. But ultimately, this is not what we're talking about when we talk about the benefits of meditation. The benefits of meditation are taught to be something that is lasting, something that brings about final and permanent happiness. Now, can we achieve final and permanent happiness? Well, that's for you to decide. Me just telling you isn't going to make things better. You've got to find out for yourself. What I will say is that using meditation in this transactional way has a limited amount of benefit. There's only so much it can benefit you in your life. As many of you will be aware, when you meditate, you can have these experiences of bliss or clarity or well-being and peace. And for some people, then they use meditation as a way of escaping the world. They've got too many thoughts in their head. They experience a lot of anxiety and neuroses. And by sitting in meditation, they can eliminate thought for a short period of time. But what happens eventually is that thought comes back. Now, what you have to understand is, in the Tibetan language, this word meditation means to habituate. It means to train yourself. It's a form of conditioning. And we use this to condition the way we see or relate to the world. Now, ultimately, what happens in meditation is you gain control over your mind. So it's not about having pleasant experiences. It's about no longer needing pleasant experiences. It's about transcending the world. What it means when we transcend the world is that we are no longer under the sway of our negative emotions of desire and anger and our indifference, etc. Ultimately, it is these negative emotions that cause the trouble. It's our desire for things that we want and not getting them that makes us frustrated and angry. It's because we need and we want these things that we're not able to be at peace or rest in tranquility. The reason why we lack this stillness in our life is because we're always searching for something. We're always adverse to things that happen in our life. Somebody who has control over their mind no longer needs to be pandered to like a little child. And so ultimately, if you're going to meditate, and this is going to bring lasting and long-term benefit, then you have to do so in a manner that isn't merely searching for pleasant experiences. Unfortunately, that's what most people are looking for when they're meditating. They only meditate in order to feel happy or to feel better about themselves. But this is a very low level of meditation, and there is a limited amount of benefit that can be gained from this kind of meditation. What happens for many people, for example, those who want to escape thought, they meditate, they try to eliminate thought and rest in a kind of stillness. But then when you get in your car and you go to work and you get stuck in a traffic jam, it makes you angry and frustrated. You're looking for peace and quietude, and you're not getting what you want. But the problem isn't that you don't get what you want. The problem is that you have this desire. You wish to experience tranquility. Someone whose mind has been thoroughly transformed through their meditation no longer needs to be placated by their objects of desire. They don't need to remove their enemies and difficult circumstances because they have become in charge. They've become the boss of their mind. What happens is that our mind bosses us around, or we could say our negative emotions. They're always telling us what to do. If I like beautiful things and I'm not surrounded with them, it makes me feel uncomfortable. If I'm adverse to noise and somebody drives by in their car with their radio blasting, it upsets me. We are upset because we have all these strong preferences of how things should be. Someone who achieves progress in their practice becomes more open-minded, less small-minded. They need less to be happy, and they're okay when unwanted circumstances arise. And so what you need to do is you need to apply yourself. The big mistake that many people make on the spiritual path is they're looking for something that resonates with their natural way of thinking. So they're not trying to change themselves. What they're trying to do is to placate their own preferences. If they like something, they want more of it. If they don't like something, they want to get rid of it. And so when they encounter teachings that resonate or are harmonious with their own way of thinking, then they gravitate towards those. But that isn't going to change the way you are. For example, if you go to university and you want to do well, you've got to get rid of your bad habits. You might just want to sit at home and watch TV and eat pizza, but the fact is you've got to put those things aside and do something that is difficult, that you don't want to do. You have to study. It's like that with anything in your life. If you want to better yourself, you have to create new and better habits, and moreover, you have to apply yourself to that which is difficult. If you're an athlete, then you have to train. If I want to run a marathon, then I've got to jog every day for a certain amount of time. If I don't, there is no way for me to improve myself in my chosen goal or activity. And it's the same when it comes to meditation. You've got to tolerate what is difficult in meditation and not just look for things that you already like. For example, you may meditate because you want to have experiences of bliss. And then if those experiences of bliss don't arise in your meditation, it frustrates you and makes you angry. It doesn't help you to be a calmer and more peaceful person. In the end, it doesn't help you to overcome your suffering. Yes, temporarily, it might make you feel better, but also having a cigarette or having a drink of alcohol might make you feel better. But in the long run, we all know that that's not the solution. So in some ways, on the spiritual path, we're very unrealistic about how we go about things. What we need to do is we need to challenge ourselves. Now there is a problem here, because if you challenge yourself too much, you will become frustrated and downhearted. Some people do this when they first come to the spiritual path. What they try to do is they try to emulate yogis of the past. Go without food, go without sleep, sit in a cave somewhere and meditate. But we're not able to do that. You have to develop your skills slowly, and that means you have to challenge yourself little by little. First, if you can only sit for 5 minutes, then you try to sit for 6 minutes. And once you can sit for 6 minutes, you try to sit for 10 minutes. It's like that. Initially, it's difficult, but the more you apply yourself to something, then the easier it becomes. Also, if you're skillful and you don't just try to jump in at the deep end, but slowly and steadily increase your capability, don't at first try to do the highest level of practice. If you want to gain results, then you have to train, and training means taking it step by step. It's the same way when you study, when you work, anything you do in your life, in your relationships. You have to apply yourself and you have to make sacrifices. But if you make too great a sacrifice too early on, then what will happen is you will burn yourself out. So these are just a few words of advice that I wanted to give you on the spiritual path about how meditation can help you to overcome your worldly suffering. Now, what I will suggest is, if you like what you hear, then please press the like button. I don't usually ask this, but what I understand is it's very beneficial for the algorithm. Also, it's something that's totally free. And if you haven't subscribed yet, then also I would ask you to subscribe if you want to hear more from me on the subject and topic about Buddhism and meditation in the modern world. So thank you for listening, and until next time, see you later.